Hey friends, welcome back. It's time for Commander Dive. Sorry this video is late. Normally I have these out on Monday. However, Monday was my birthday. So it was everything I could do to get this out and edited here on Tuesday. It is terror season, guys. So I've got a special commander lined up for you today with Halloween just around the corner. This one's from Duskmourn. Let's get into it. I'm Adam, and this is Commander Tax. So what commander do we have? Well, we have Valgavoth Terror Eater. It's 6 and 3 black pips. This is a mono black commander deck. Elder Demon, Flying Lifelink. It's got wards, sacrifice 3 non-land permanents. If a card you didn't control would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. During your turn, you may play cards exiled with Valgavoth. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana, rather than pay its mana cost. You can get things from your opponents and you get to play them for, well, not free, but just for some life. And it's a 9/9 with a huge ward cost. The only way this is getting removed is really going to be if they have a board wipe. Let's be honest. No one's going to want to sack 3 permanents. It's as bad as Portal to Phyrexia. This is a nasty demon beater, and I'm going to call this Val going forward. I like the sound of that. And Val, I love the art on this piece, and I just think this is going to be a fun deck. It's mono black. How can it not be? And let's get into the first category here. Big Demons. All right, so our first big demon is Sower of Discord. It's 4 and 2 black pips. Great art on this piece. This is just a straight up demon. It's a 6/6 flyer. As it enters the battlefield, choose 2 players. Whenever damage is dealt to one of the chosen players, the other chosen player also loses that much life. This is like a really nasty wedding ring. I love this card. I think this is awesome. I think it's a great way to do damage to 2 different people. Granted, you're making 2 enemies. However, in mono black, that's kind of hard not to do. So this is just a fun, interesting demon, and that's kind of the theme of this is demons. Next up, we have Crabomination. This is a new card from MH3. It is 4 and 2 black pips. A lot of demons are 6 cost. We'll get into the expensive cost of this deck, mana-wise, and we'll talk about that in the next category. However, this is a crab demon. Great creature type. Love these unique creature types. It's got to merge from artifacts. We're not really doing an artifact theme, so we're not going to use that. But when it enters the battlefield, target opponent exiles the top card of their library, a card at random from their graveyard, and a card at random from their hand. You may cast a spell from among the cards exiled this way without paying its mana cost. So doing a lot of what Val is doing, just giving us some extra value, a way to play things from our opponents, and getting a lot of value. Next up, we have Blood Gift Demon. It's 3 and 2 black pips. This is Phyrexian Arena on a creature. It's flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, target player draws a card. You're going to choose yourself. But this also would be great in a 2-head giant game and lose 1 life. So a 5/4 that lets you draw an additional card each turn. I really like that, and you're going to need a lot of card draw in this. Next up, we have Rakshasa Debaser. 4 and 2 black pips. Another 6 cost demon. This one's a cat demon, great creature type. And when it attacks, you put target creature from defending player's graveyard on the battlefield under your control. Awesome effect. You get to steal something from somebody's graveyard. Again, doing another steal your stuff theme, and that's kind of a little bit of a theme of this deck. That's the theme of demons. And you can do Encore, which means you exile this card from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copy that attacks that opponent this turn if able. They gain haste, sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step, activate only as a sorcery. This would be a great finisher. If you can get 8 mana, you're going to basically, because when it attacks, you're going to steal something. So it's basically Myriad, which means it's going to trigger multiple times, and you're going to get multiple stuff, and you could just wipe the board. It could be, or wipe the table. You could just win the game with this. Really cool card. Next up, we have Reign of the Pit. Each player sacrifices a creature. Create an XX black demon creature with flying, where X is the total power of the creature sacrificed this way. So if you have a bunch of people playing big stompy creatures, I mean, someone's going to sack something small, but maybe you can force someone to sack something big, and then you're going to get a big demon in return. Just a fun removal that stays on theme with demons. Next up, we have Shadow Grange Archfiend. It's 6 and a black pip, so this one's one more than your standard demon. It's an 8/4. Whenever it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacks a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control. You gain life equal to the greatest power among creatures sacrificed this way. Great card. You can also do madness, so if you're forced to discard this, you can pay 8 life and pay 3, and it gets this onto the battlefield, which is really nice if you're playing another black player or you are forced to discard in some other way. And also just a great life gain, since our commander is going to force us to lose life. There's some other life gain cards in this. We're not going to really feature them, but having life gain in this when you're paying life to cast creatures is going to be really beneficial. And that is it for our first category. Let's move on. Little demons. Even though we're playing a lot of big cost demons, you have to be able to play something early. If you don't, then you may just be dead before you ever get to play a demon. The first one up here we have is Venom Crawler. This is a Warhammer 40k card. It is 3 and a black pip. It's got lifelink. Again, that's going to help us. And then whenever another creature dies, you put a 1/1 counter on this. So it's going to get bigger over time. It's a great way to play something early and then still have it benefit you late game if it doesn't get removed. Now we have Tabarrak's Hope's Demise. Great art on this one. 2 and a black pip. This is a demon cleric. It's a 2/2 flyer. Tabarrak's has lifelink as long as it has 5 or more 1/1 counters on it. So again, another way to gain some life. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, put a 1/1 counter on Tabarrak's. If the creature was a cleric, you may draw a card. If you do, you lose 1 life. Fortunately, I think we only have 1 other cleric. So that's another demon sub-theme. Actually, we have 2 other clerics, now that I think about it. But anyway, we're not going to draw a whole lot of cards off of this, but if we can just get it out early, it's going to benefit us. And then, again, this is something that has flexibility. It can be effective later in the game as you lose other stuff. Now we have Valgavoth Blood Sky Sire. 2 and a black pip. It's got Death Touch. It's a 2/3. Got amazing boast ability for just 1 and a black. Target player searches their library for a card, then shuffles their library and puts it on top. So it's got a tutor effect. This has got several tutors in it. This is mono black. We're going to tutor. We're not big tutors, but because our play group doesn't really care for that. But in this situation, I think I'm going to make an exception because mono black, that's one of the things it does best. Why not use it to our advantage? And there's not really one demon that's going to win us the game. So just being able to search up one of our fun demons is going to be awesome in this deck. Now we have Bloodletter of El'Kazat. Is 1 and 3 black pips, but being mono black, 3 black pips ain't no big deal. So it's a 2/4 flying. If an opponent would lose life during your turn, they lose twice that much life. So this is going to be a damage doubler and just a great way to finish out games. Now we have a very fun card from Lord of the Rings, Shelob Dreadweaver. It's 3 and a black pip, spider demon. Whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls die, exile it. I love this. It's a lot like Val. It's a lot like your Dothy Voidwalker. So this is going to be kind of a bit of a redundancy, but it's a lot cheaper. 2 and a black pip. You can put a creature card exiled with Shelob into its owner's graveyard, put 2 1/1 counters on Shelob, draw a card. So you can choose just to make this bigger, which is, again, great because it gives us flexibility. However, you can do X, a 1 and a black to put target creature with mana value X. So you got to pay the mana. Exile with Shelob onto the battlefield, tapped under your control. It sounds like she's Jewish, Shelob. I think I'm saying that wrong. Lord of the Rings fans, please don't kill me. Shelob. Anyways, you can, again, take something from exile and you get to put it into play. I didn't want to put too many of these effects. I actually don't have Dothy in this deck because, we really want to be able to play cards with our commander, and that makes it really difficult if we have too many of these effects going on because, the way that they are going to trigger, you're going to have to pick and choose, and you don't want to have to pick, between 3 great effects. So two here is going to be good enough. Ram. Since Valgavoth is 9 cost, we have to find some interesting ramp to allow us to actually play this, because if you wait until turn 9, you're probably going to lose the game. So let's get into some cards that will allow us to play this earlier than turn 9. First up, we have an old card. It's called Sacrifice, and the art on this is pretty spectacular. You don't see art like this anymore. This is a interrupt, aka instant, for 1 black pip. You sacrifice one of your creatures to add to your mana pool a number of black mana equal to that creature's casting cost. So if you play this and sack a 5 CMC creature, you're going to get 5 black mana. If you already have 5 black mana, or 4 black mana rather, you're going to be able to play your commander. So a great spell that allows us to play out our commander early. Next up, we have Magus of the Coffers. It's 4 and a black pip, human wizard. You paid 2. And you can add black mana equal to the number of swamps you control. Since this is a mono black deck, you should have a lot of swamps. So if you have the money, you can get Urbog, Tomb of Yawgmoth, which will turn all lands into swamps. So even if you have something out that's not a swamp, it would be a swamp. And so this is like a Cabal Coffers on a stick, much cheaper than Cabal Coffers. If you have the money, obviously go get Cabal, or put both of them in there, which is what I've done. Just another way to basically get our commander out a little bit early. And since we have these giant costed demons, another way to get our demons out. Next up, we have Black Market. So if you can get this out on turn 3 or 4, like you can ramp out a little bit, then anytime a creature dies, you're going to get a counter on this. And then you get black mana equal to the number of counters on it. So hopefully after a few turns, you're getting 3, 4, 5 additional black mana on your turn, which is going to allow us to play our commander and our other demons. Now we have Heartless Summoning. This is an awesome card I found. I had to dig a little bit for this one. I'm really excited to show this one off, especially the horror-themed art on this. Again, art you don't see. This is just really dark stuff. It's 1 in a black pip. Creature spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. 2 less. That's awesome. When you have a lot of high-costed creatures, 2 less, that's going to be monumental. Creatures you control get -1, -1. It has a big con to it. However, because our creatures are so well statted, having -1, -1 when it's a 6/6 still makes it a 5/5, and you're probably going to be bigger than most of your opponents. And the value on this is just awesome. Next up, we have Crick, Son of Yawgmoth. This is 4 and 3 Phyrexian black mana, which means you can pay 2 life for each one of those. So you can pay 4 and then 2, 4, 6 life to play him. He has lifelink and he's a 2/2, so that's awesome. But then for each black mana it costs, you may pay 2 life rather than pay that mana. So it turns all your black mana into Phyrexian mana. And since we have a lot of life games, since we're paying life to cast cards for free, additional effect of being able to have this on another card. So if we can't get our commander out is really good. And then in addition to that, the lifelink is going to help with, dealing with paying for cards with life. Whenever you cast a black spell, you get to put a 1/1 counter on this. This is just an awesome card. This is a really big CEDH card for mono black, one of the best mono black commander decks. But I mean, heck, you could actually play this as an alternative commander in this deck. And so if you wanted to make it a little bit more mean, you could do that. And you could put Val into the 99. Or, depending on the situation, you could play one or the other. I really like the flexibility of having this card in here so that you can, basically scale up your deck pretty easily. Now we have Cryptghast. This basically, the Extort, and this is an interesting card because normally if you see white mana on a black card, you'd have to be an Orzhov. Extort is an exception because it is just in the explanation text. So it just means you can pay black or white. So you can read this as Extort, pay black, and then now there's no white. And it allows us to play this in a mono black deck. But whenever you tap a swamp for mana, add an additional black mana. So just another way to double up our swamps, which is really needed in this deck. Now we move on to a newer card, Throne of Eldraine. It is a mana rock for 5, very expensive. However, when it comes into play, you choose a color, black. Add 4 mana of the chosen color. So after 2 turns, this is paid for itself and more. And then you can only cast this to cast monocolored spell or in a monocolored deck. So this is just a fabulous card. You can pay 3 and tap it, and then you draw 2 cards, spend only mana of the chosen color to activate this ability. Dude, pay 3, tap this, draw 2 cards. This card is amazing. Absolutely amazing. I actually had this card at one time and sold it to a friend. I kind of regret it. I mean, I'm super happy for my friend, but now I got to buy another one, and it's like $20 when I opened it in a pack. It was one of those things at the time. It was only a $5 or $10 card, and I guess I should have known better. You know, it is what it is. This is a lesson, I guess. You know, be careful what you choose to sell and what you choose to keep. Everything else. First card is Demonic Rising. It's 3 and 2 black pips, enchantment. I just thought this was a really cool card. At the beginning of your end step, if you control exactly one creature, put a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying onto the battlefield. It's just an awesome way to get a creature if you're having trouble getting something to stick to the board. This is just going to create a token each turn. You could, you know, if you had a sack outlet and you want to do some sacrifice stuff with demons, this is a good card for that as well. However, I just like it if, you know, you're just playing these giant creatures. Now you just have, you know, you spent your whole turn on turn 6 playing a demon, and that's your only creature. Well, this is going to give you a 5/5. So it just gives us a little bit of more protection to deal with other players. Now we have Immortal Sun. This is a 6-cost artifact. This is perfect for this deck. Players can activate Planeswalker loyalty abilities. I like that. Shuts down Super Friends. At the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card. It gives you card draw. Spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. We have a super high statted deck here, so this is going to reduce that. And then creatures you control get +1/+1, so all of our demons will get +1/+1. This card literally just does everything and just slots into this deck perfectly. Now we have a new card. This is 1 in a black pip. It is Demonic Council. So this is search your library for a demon card, reveal it, put it into your hand. So this is a demonic tutor with actually having to go get a demon, right? So it's got Delirium too. If there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, which is possible, not really what we're trying to do here, but instead you search your library for any card. So you don't have to search necessarily for a demon if you got the right stuff in your graveyard, and you can put it into your hand. Normally we're just going to pay this for 2 because we want the demon. Next up we have Meathook Massacre 2. It's 4 black and then X twice. So that means if you want X to be 1, you pay 2. If you want it to be 2, you pay 4. So it's either, you know, if X is 2, then you're paying 8 mana. So this can get really expensive really fast. However, when it enters, each player sacrifices X creatures. So a great little removal. Not really what you're going to use this for. A lot of times you're just going to pay 0 for X. So you can get it out in turn 4. But whenever a creature you control dies, you can pay 3 life. And then you return it to your battlefield with a finality counter on it. I like that Magic has moved to doing finality counters for recursion, just because you should only really be able to bring something back one time, unless you're going to do the work to remove the finality counter. It kind of balances a little bit because graveyard can be really strong unless you just exile graveyard, which is just no fun for graveyard players. Anyways, moving on. Now we have, it says whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, they can pay 3 life. If they don't, return that card under your control with a finality counter. So again, this is doing the thing that Val is, just stealing stuff from your opponent. However, this is kind of just a redundancy. If Val's out, then you're getting it regardless if you pay the life. However, if Val's not out, then now they got to pay 3 life, or you can do it, and you're just going to get it. You're not actually going to have to pay life to get it, which is cool. Just a fun piece in here. Next up, we have Vein Ripper. We need ways to gain life, and this is one of the best ways to do it. It's 3 and 3 black pips. Flying, ward, sacrifice a creature, so that nothing else. If they want to target this, you're going to gain 4 life because they're going to have to sack something, so you're going to gain 2 life. And then when this dies, you're going to gain 2 life. So at very least, you're going to gain 4 life, and then they're going to lose 4. But whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. So great card, 6/5, one of my favorite cards to play in mono black. And that is everything else. We're going to move on to our last category here. And normally I'd call this salty, but because this is already a salty deck and these are extremely salty cards, this is going to be called Insta Scoop. The first card here is Doomsday Excruciator. It is 6 black pips. So you're only ever going to play this in a black deck But it's a demon, and it's a 6/6 that says flying. When it enters, if it was cast, each player exiles all but the bottom 6 of their library face down, which means that after you play this, the game is only going to last another 6 turns. And at the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card. So you're going to draw an additional card, and so this is going to kill you faster than anything, but it definitely is going to be salty because the rest of the table is going to be upset that you just put a clock on the game. Next up, we have Liliana's Contract. It's 3 and 2 black pips. When it enters, you draw 4 cards and you lose 4 life. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 4 or more demons with different names, not going to be that hard. You just win the game. So this is just kind of a salty card because it's just one of those things, like, again, puts a clock on the game. You probably already have 1 demon. So you get this, you get another 4 cards. You're definitely going to draw the demons because this is a demon deck, and then it's just a matter of playing them out without them being removed. Not exactly the saltiest card, but anytime you have a win con on turn 5, that's going to, especially if you already have 4 demons out, this is going to rub some people the wrong way, but great card. I would really probably suggest putting this one in. Next up, we have Phyrexian Obliterator. This is 4 black, and this prevents anybody from attacking you or blocking you, one or the other, because whenever a source deals damage to this, that source's controller sacrifices that many permanents. So this has to be removed with a removal spell. So otherwise, they're going to have to remove 5. They're going to have to sack 5 permanents, which is just a ton. And it's really hard to deal with this without any kind of removal. And in red, it's extremely hard because you're using damage removal. So if you hit this for 5, you're still sacrificing 5. Next up, we have Sheoldred Whispering One. This is 5 and 2 black pips. I love this card because it's constant recursion. On your turn, it's got Swamp Walk. It's a 6/6, but then at the beginning of each opponent's turn, they have to sacrifice a creature, which is salty, making people sacrifice stuff continually. And the last card here is Sheoldred the Apocalypse. It's 2 and 2 black pips, a very expensive card. I don't know, unless you already have one of these, I probably wouldn't put it in there just because it's getting close to $100 for this card at times. It can be down as low as 60, 70, so just kind of wait for the dip. But Death Touch 4/5. Whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life, which is awesome for us. But whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. So if someone is in a draw theme, this is just going to shut them out of the game. So that's why it can be salty. Normally, though, in a Commander game, this isn't nearly as salty as it would be in something like Standard. I actually like this card for Commander and wouldn't really not suggest putting it in there. If you have the card, I'd put it in. It's an awesome card. Great for Commander. Just fun to play with and fun to, not necessarily unfun to play against. So, Gix failed. I shall not. Sheoldred the Apocalypse. Awesome card. And that, guys, is our video. Thanks for swinging by and checking this out. I hope you really like the horror theme in this new set and in this deck. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.